controlling your mind according to Buddhism. The mysterious nature of thought. Have you ever noticed how thoughts appear seemingly out of nowhere? One moment, you're focused on a task, and the next, your mind has drifted to an old argument, a childhood memory, or an anxious worry about the future. Where do these thoughts originate? And if you're not consciously generating them, then who or what is doing the thinking? These questions have puzzled philosophers, neuroscientists, and spiritual seekers alike. Buddhism provides a profound answer, rooted in the principle of Anattā, the doctrine of non-self. This book explores the nature of thoughts, their origin, and the illusion of an internal thinker. Drawing from Buddhist philosophy, modern psychology, and personal insights, we will uncover how our minds create the illusion of a self, and how mindfulness can lead to liberation from mental turmoil. Chapter 1. The uninvited guests in our minds. How thoughts arise. Imagine sitting in silence, attempting to focus on your breath. Within seconds, your mind begins to wander. What will I eat later? Did I forget to lock the door? Thoughts appear uninvited, like guests who enter without knocking. This suggests that we are not entirely in control of our thinking. Buddhism teaches that thoughts arise due to Pratītyasamutpāda, dependent origination. A sensation, memory, or emotion triggers a chain reaction, leading to an endless stream of thoughts. We do not think in the way we assume, rather, thinking happens to us. The illusion of control. Try predicting your next thought. The moment you attempt to anticipate it, your mind shifts, altering the flow of cognition. This reveals a core Buddhist truth. If thoughts cannot be predicted or controlled, then who is thinking them? This aligns with Anattā, non-self, the idea that the self is an illusion. Thoughts emerge based on past karma, conditioning, and stimuli, not from an independent thinker. By observing them without attachment, we loosen the grip of identification with them. The role of meditation. Instead of suppressing thoughts, Buddhism teaches us to observe them with equanimity. In meditation, we see thoughts like clouds passing in the sky, impermanent and ever-changing. By cultivating mindfulness, sati, we recognize thoughts as mere mental phenomena, reducing their power over us. Liberation through awareness. Most suffering arises from attachment to thoughts. When we believe our mental narratives, we become trapped in worry, regret, and self-doubt. But by understanding their transient nature, we free ourselves from unnecessary distress. Through consistent practice, we develop clarity and inner peace, realizing that behind thoughts lies a vast, boundless awareness, our true nature, beyond all mental fabrications. Chapter 2. The illusion of a thinker. The Buddhist concept of non-self. The idea that there is a thinker behind our thoughts is an illusion created by the mind itself. The Buddha described the human experience through pancha khanda, the 5 aggregates, which form our perception of self. 1. Form, rupa, the physical body and material world. 2. Feelings, vedana, sensations and emotions that arise from contact with experiences. 3. Perceptions, sanya, recognition and interpretation of sensory inputs. 4. Mental formations, sankhara, thoughts, intentions, and volitions that shape our behavior. 5. Consciousness, vijnana, awareness that arises from these aggregates. Together, these elements create the illusion of a unified self. However, when closely examined, none of these aggregates are permanent or independently existing. They arise and pass away based on conditions, revealing that what we perceive as I is merely a mental construct rather than a fixed entity. Investigating the Self. The story of Kamaka. In Buddhist texts, there is a story of Kamaka, a monk who deeply investigated the nature of self. He examined each of the 5 aggregates but found no permanent I among them. Even the thought I am thinking was recognized as just another mental formation. This insight led him to a profound realization. The self is nothing more than a habitual attachment to these impermanent elements. This understanding is liberating because it frees us from the suffering that arises from clinging to identity. When we let go of the illusion of self, we also let go of the fears, desires, and attachments tied to it. Meditation and the dissolution of self. Through mindfulness meditation, sati, practitioners learn to observe thoughts, feelings, and sensations as passing phenomena rather than aspects of a fixed identity. By cultivating insight, vipassana, we begin to experience the impermanent and conditioned nature of all mental and physical phenomena. A key practice in this realization is neti, not this, not that. Whenever a thought or emotion arises, instead of identifying with it, we recognize its transient nature. This awareness dissolves attachment and brings inner peace, allowing us to experience reality as it truly is. Freedom beyond the illusion. The illusion of a thinker binds us to suffering by making us believe in an enduring self. But by seeing through this illusion, we cultivate equanimity and liberation. When we cease clinging to identity, we open the door to wisdom, prajna, experiencing life with greater clarity and freedom. The path to enlightenment is not about attaining something new, but about letting go of the false constructs that obscure our true nature. Chapter 3. The Mind as a Flowing River. How thoughts connect and influence one another. A single thought rarely exists in isolation. One thought triggers another, creating a cascade of mental activity. A fleeting worry about work may lead to thoughts about unfinished tasks, which then remind you of a past failure, causing anxiety. This interconnected nature of thoughts reveals how easily the mind becomes entangled in narratives of its own making. This process is akin to a river, always flowing, never the same from one moment to the next. Just as a river's water is constantly shifting, our thoughts continuously change, shaped by prior causes and conditions. According to Pratītyasamutpāda, dependent origination, each thought arises due to preceding conditions, forming an unbroken chain of mental activity. Understanding this helps us detach from our mental chatter and view thoughts as impermanent phenomena rather than absolute truths. The nature of thoughts, impermanence and non-self. Buddhism teaches that thoughts, like all conditioned phenomena, are anicca, impermanent, and anattā, not self. They arise due to causes and dissolve when those causes fade. Yet, we often identify with them, believing them to define who we are. In reality, thoughts are merely passing events, like waves on the surface of a river. Just as one cannot grasp a wave without it dissolving, clinging to thoughts only creates suffering. By recognizing that thoughts have no inherent reality, we begin to loosen our attachment to them. This allows us to cultivate a state of upekkha, equanimity, where thoughts are observed without emotional turbulence. Instead of being swept away by the current of thinking, we learn to sit on the riverbank, watching the flow without resistance. Why controlling thoughts doesn't work. Many people attempt to silence their thoughts through force, but this approach often backfires. Trying to stop thinking is like trying to hold back a river with your hands. It only increases the turbulence. The more we resist thoughts, the stronger they seem to become. Suppression creates inner conflict, reinforcing the very thoughts we wish to eliminate. Instead of suppressing thoughts, Buddhism advocates sati, mindful awareness. By simply observing thoughts as they arise and pass, we develop insight into their transient nature. Vipassana, insight meditation, teaches us to witness thoughts without grasping or aversion, allowing the mind to settle naturally. Just as a river finds its own course, an unforced mind returns to clarity and stillness. The practice of letting thoughts flow. One effective practice is labeling thoughts. When a thought arises, simply note, thinking, remembering, planning, without engaging with it. This practice, rooted in mindfulness, helps us detach from thought patterns and remain present. Over time, the habit of non-identification with thoughts cultivates inner freedom. By embracing the impermanence of thoughts and relinquishing the urge to control them, we find peace within the ever-flowing river of the mind. True clarity arises not by stopping the river, but by understanding its nature. Chapter 4. Mindfulness as the Key to Freedom. Observing thoughts without attachment. One of the most powerful Buddhist practices is mindfulness, sati, which teaches us to witness thoughts without identifying with them. When we step back and simply observe our mental processes, we begin to see that we are not our thoughts. We are the awareness that perceives them. The practice of mindful observation. The Satipatthana Sutta provides detailed instructions on cultivating mindfulness. It advises practitioners to observe bodily sensations, emotions, and thoughts with equanimity, recognizing their transient nature. Through this practice, we come to understand that thoughts are not personal. They arise due to causes and conditions, just like waves forming and dissolving in the ocean. When we identify with our thoughts, we become entangled in them, mistaking them for reality. However, by practicing vipassana, insight meditation, we develop the ability to observe thoughts as passing phenomena. Just as clouds drift across the sky without altering the vastness of space, thoughts arise and fade without defining who we are. The science behind mindfulness. Modern neuroscience supports the transformative power of mindfulness. Research by Dr. John Kabat-Zinn and others has shown that regular mindfulness practice rewires the brain, reducing stress, improving emotional regulation, and enhancing focus. Studies in neuroplasticity reveal that mindfulness strengthens the prefrontal cortex, increasing awareness and decreasing reactivity to thoughts and emotions. A simple mindfulness exercise. For the next 10 seconds, close your eyes and watch your thoughts without judgment. Imagine they are clouds drifting across the sky. Did you notice a moment of stillness? Even a brief glimpse of this spacious awareness can be profoundly transformative. By consistently practicing this form of observation, we train the mind to rest in awareness rather than be swept away by thoughts. Over time, mindfulness leads to greater clarity, inner peace, and the realization that true freedom lies not in controlling thoughts but in letting them come and go without attachment. Chapter 5. The Empty Center, Searching for the Self. What happens when you look for the thinker? If you pause and try to find the entity that is thinking, you may discover an unexpected absence. The self you assume to be behind your thoughts is elusive, more of a feeling than a concrete reality. Thoughts arise, emotions fluctuate, and sensations come and go, yet no solid, unchanging self can be found. The Anattā Lakkhana Sutta states, "This is not mine. This I am not. This is not myself." The Buddha encouraged his followers to analyze each aspect of their experience, body, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness, and recognize that none of these constitute a fixed self. The sense of I is merely a habitual mental construct, arising from conditioned experiences. The illusion of self and its impact. The illusion of self leads to attachment and suffering. We cling to identity, beliefs, and thoughts, fearing their loss as if it were a loss of self. But when we look deeply, we realize that the I is a collection of transient phenomena. Just as a whirlpool appears to have a distinct form while being nothing more than moving water, the self appears real but is simply a pattern of ever-changing mental and physical elements. Understanding this liberates us. Without a fixed self to defend, suffering lessens, conflicts dissolve because there is no ego demanding validation. Fear diminishes because there is no separate self to protect. Instead of reacting to thoughts as personal, we observe them as passing events in awareness. Practical application. Living with this understanding. Rather than trying to eliminate thoughts, we should develop a wiser relationship with them. Buddhism teaches yoniso manasikara, wise attention, which means engaging with thoughts in a way that promotes understanding rather than suffering. By shifting how we relate to mental activity, we free ourselves from unnecessary distress. A mindful approach to thought. 1. Set an intention. Approach experiences with clarity rather than reactivity. 2. Observe without clinging. Notice thoughts as they arise without identifying with them. 3. Create space. Allow insights to emerge by stepping back from compulsive thinking. 4. Cultivate equanimity. Stay balanced, even in uncertainty or difficulty. 5. Recognize insight when wisdom arises. Allow it to unfold naturally, without force. By practicing this, we gradually loosen the illusion of a fixed self. Life becomes lighter, thoughts lose their grip, and we experience a deeper freedom, the freedom of not needing to be anyone at all. Conclusion. Beyond thought, into awareness. The question arises, if you're not your thoughts, who's thinking them? The answer is not found through intellectual inquiry or concepts, but through direct experience. When we pause and look deeply into the nature of our mind, we realize the illusion of a separate thinker. Thoughts come and go, but they do not belong to a fixed, unchanging self. What remains is pure awareness, vast, empty, and ever-present. This awareness is not an object to be grasped or defined. It is the space in which all thoughts and experiences arise and dissolve. It is the ground of our being, untouched by the fleeting nature of thoughts and emotions. Recognizing this shifts our identification from being the thinker to being the awareness that observes. The Buddha's silence when questioned about metaphysical matters points to the limits of conceptual understanding. Some truths, such as the nature of mind, transcend language. Freedom lies not in finding answers, but in the simple act of observing without attachment, letting go, and resting in the awareness that is always present.